A quiet girl with paint-stained fingers and a heart full of dreams. Thought her biggest worry was finishing her senior art project on time. But when the school's cruelest students reduced months of her painstaking work to shredded canvas and broken dreams, they awakened something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. What they didn't know was that behind those thick-rimmed glasses and shy smiles lived a digital mastermind who could turn their own weapons of humiliation against them in ways that would leave them begging for mercy. This isn't just another tale of revenge. This is a masterclass in precision, creativity, and the kind of justice that hits exactly where it hurts most. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Maya Chun had always believed that art could save her from the suffocating mediocrity of Millbrook, Oregon. At 17, she possessed the kind of raw talent that made seasoned artists pause and take notice, though she'd spent 4 years at Riverside High School, making herself as invisible as possible. Her thick black hair fell like a curtain across her face, and her oversized cardigan seemed designed to help her disappear into the background of crowded hallways. She preferred it that way. While her classmates navigated the treacherous waters of teenage social hierarchies, Maya found solace in the art studio, where colors spoke louder than words and her brushstrokes could express everything her voice couldn't. The art studio had become her sanctuary, a converted classroom on the 3rd floor where afternoon sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating dust motes that danced like tiny spirits above her workspace. Ms. Rodriguez, the art teacher, who'd become something of a surrogate mother to Maya, had given her a key so she could work late, recognizing both the girl's exceptional talent and her need for a safe space away from the cruel theater of high school politics. Maya spent every lunch period there, every study hall, and most afternoons until the janitor politely reminded her that he needed to lock up for the night. Her senior portfolio project, titled Metamorphosis, had consumed her life for the past 6 months. It was more than just an art piece. It was her ticket to the Rhode Island School of Design, her escape route from a town that felt too small for her dreams. The mixed media installation combined traditional oil painting with cutting-edge digital projection technology, creating a visual narrative about transformation and the hidden strength that lives within seemingly fragile things. The centerpiece was a series of canvas panels depicting a chrysalis breaking open, with digital projections that would make the emerging butterfly appear to actually fly off the canvas. It was ambitious, technically complex, and absolutely breathtaking. What made the project even more special was the secret technology Maya had embedded within it. Unknown to anyone at school, Maya possessed skills that would have impressed Silicon Valley engineers. Her uncle David, who'd worked in cybersecurity for the government before a career-ending injury forced him into early retirement, had spent countless hours teaching her everything he knew about computers, networks, and digital forensics. While other kids her age were posting selfies and playing mobile games, Maya was learning to trace IP addresses, decode encrypted files, and navigate the deepest corners of the internet with the skill of a seasoned professional. She'd built custom software that would control the digital projections in her art piece, but more importantly, she designed it with hidden capabilities that could interface with any device in the room. Her creation was beautiful on the surface, but underneath, it was a technological marvel that could have applications far beyond the art world. Maya had planned to reveal these hidden features to Ms. Rodriguez after the district art competition, hoping they might help her stand out even more to college admissions boards. But Maya's peaceful existence in her artistic bubble was about to be shattered by forces she'd managed to avoid for years. Blake Morrison ruled Riverside High with the kind of casual cruelty that came naturally to those born into privilege. Tall, effortlessly handsome, with the kind of confident smile that had been charming teachers and intimidating classmates since elementary school, Blake commanded a loyal following of students who worshipped his every move. His father owned the largest construction company in Millbrook, and his mother sat on the school board, giving Blake a sense of untouchability that he wielded like a weapon. Derek Walsh served as Blake's enforcer, a hulking football player whose intelligence was inversely proportional to his physical strength. Derek had been held back a year, making him both older and more volatile than his classmates, with a hair-trigger temper that Blake manipulated expertly. When Blake wanted someone intimidated, Derek was his first choice, and Derek was always eager to please his charismatic leader. Sophia Martinez controlled the school's information flow through her massive social media following, with over 10,000 followers across various platforms who hung on her every post. She'd turned gossip into an art form capable of destroying reputations with a single carefully crafted story. Her phone was never more than inches from her perfectly manicured fingers, always ready to capture the next piece of drama that would feed her followers' insatiable appetite for scandal. Ryan Cooper fancied himself a comedian, but his brand of humor relied heavily on making others the punchline. His pranks had grown increasingly elaborate and cruel over the years, evolving from simple practical jokes to psychological warfare, designed to humiliate his targets as thoroughly as possible. He documented everything, creating viral videos that lived forever on the internet, permanent monuments to his victims' worst moments. Lily Thompson completed the group, though her position was precarious at best. Desperate to belong somewhere, anywhere, she'd attached herself to Blake's circle and would do absolutely anything to maintain her tenuous acceptance. Her insecurity made her both pathetic and dangerous, willing to betray anyone if it meant securing her place in the groups. Hierarchy. This toxic constellation of personalities had largely ignored Maya throughout their shared high school experience. She was too quiet, too unremarkable to warrant their attention when there were more prominent targets available. But that was about to change in the most catastrophic way possible. Maya's art project, her dreams, and her carefully constructed, invisible existence were about to collide with Blake's world in a way that would leave nothing unchanged. The stage was set for a confrontation that would reveal truths about power, about cruelty, and about the dangerous mistake of underestimating someone just because they choose to stay quiet. Maya Chun was about to learn that sometimes the greatest art comes from the deepest pain. And Blake Morrison was about to discover that some people are quiet not because they're weak, but because they're calculating. The morning light filtered through the tall windows of Riverside High School as Maya navigated the crowded hallways with practiced invisibility. Students rushed past her in waves, their voices creating a symphony of weekend gossip, test anxiety, and social maneuvering that she'd learned to tune out years ago. Her worn messenger bag hung heavy across her shoulder, filled with art supplies, and the digital tablet she used for planning her projects. Maya moved with purpose toward the art studio, her sanctuary awaiting on the third floor where she could lose herself in colors and creation until the rest of the world faded away. Blake Morrison held court near the main entrance, surrounded by his usual audience of admirers and hangers-on. His Letterman jacket was perfectly pressed, his smile calculated to maximum effect as he regaled his followers with some story that had them laughing at precisely the right moments. Blake had perfected the art of commanding attention without seeming to try, a skill that came as naturally to him as breathing. His eyes swept the hallway like a predator surveying his territory, cataloging the social dynamics that played out around him with the detached interest of someone who'd never questioned his place at the top of the food chain. Derek Walsh leaned against the lockers beside Blake, his massive frame making the metal doors look like toys. His knuckles bore fresh scrapes from the previous night's fight outside Miller's bar, though he wore them like badges of honor. Derek's intelligence had always been more physical than intellectual, but his loyalty to Blake was absolute. He understood his role in their group's ecosystem and executed it with brutal efficiency whenever called upon. The younger students gave him a wide berth, instinctively recognizing the danger that lurked behind his perpetually vacant expression. Sofia Martinez typed furiously on her phone, her fingers flying across the screen as she crafted her morning dose of social media content. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Her followers expected constant updates, a steady stream of drama and insider information that kept them coming back for more. She'd built her reputation on being the first to know everything that mattered at Riverside High, and she guarded that position jealously. Her camera roll contained enough compromising photos and videos to destroy half the student body, though she saved her most devastating material for when it would have maximum impact. Ryan Cooper juggled 3 phones simultaneously, managing different social media accounts with the dedication of a professional influencer. His pranks had evolved into elaborate productions that required careful planning and multiple camera angles to capture every moment of his victim's humiliation. He'd already scouted several potential targets for his next video, always looking for someone whose reaction would generate the most views. His followers craved increasingly extreme content, and Ryan was always eager to deliver. Lily Thompson hovered at the edge of the group, desperately trying to contribute something meaningful to their conversation while simultaneously terrified of saying the wrong thing. Her position in Blake's inner circle remained fragile, dependent entirely on her willingness to participate in whatever cruel entertainment they devised. She'd sacrificed countless friendships and her own moral compass to maintain her place among them, but the constant anxiety of potential rejection ate at her like acid. Maya climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, her footsteps echoing in the empty stairwell. The upper floors of Riverside High were quieter, populated mainly by serious students heading to advanced placement classes and the few teachers who arrived early to prepare for their day. She appreciated the relative peace, the absence of the social warfare that dominated the main floors. Her art studio existed in this elevated space like a hidden kingdom, separate from the brutality below. Ms. Rodriguez was already in the studio when Maya arrived, preparing materials for her first period class. Patricia Rodriguez had taught art at Riverside High for 15 years, long enough to recognize exceptional talent when she saw it, and long enough to understand the complex social dynamics that could either nurture or destroy a gifted student. She'd watched Maya develop from a shy freshman with obvious potential into a sophisticated artist, whose work rivaled that of college seniors. More importantly, she'd provided the emotional support that Maya desperately needed as she navigated the treacherous waters of adolescence without much family guidance. Maya's Aunt Carmen worked long hours as a graphic designer for a marketing firm in Portland, leaving early each morning and returning home exhausted most evenings. She cared deeply for Maya and provided a stable home environment, but her demanding career left little time for the kind of mentoring that might have helped Maya develop confidence beyond her artistic abilities. Uncle David visited occasionally, sharing his technical expertise and encouraging Maya's interest in digital technology. But he lived 3 hours away and struggled with his own demons following his forced retirement from government service. The art studio buzzed with creative energy as Maya set up her workspace. Her metamorphosis project dominated one corner of the room, the canvas panels arranged in careful sequence to tell their visual story of transformation. The digital projection equipment remained hidden beneath protective covers, waiting for the evening when Maya would conduct her final tests before the district competition. She'd spent weeks programming the interactive elements, creating software that would respond to viewers' movements and create a truly immersive experience. What Maya hadn't shared with anyone, including Ms. Rodriguez, was the true extent of her technical capabilities. The projection system she'd built for her art project was just the visible tip of an iceberg that extended deep into the digital realm. Her uncle David's training had given her skills that would have impressed cybersecurity professionals, abilities that she'd kept carefully hidden to avoid unwanted attention. She could navigate government databases, decrypt supposedly secure communications, and manipulate digital systems with surgical precision. Blake's world operated on entirely different principles. His power came from charisma, family connections, and the kind of casual cruelty that kept potential challengers in line. He'd never needed to develop technical skills or hidden talents, because everything had always been handed to him on a silver platter. His father's construction company dominated local building contracts. His mother's position on the school board ensured favorable treatment from administrators, and his natural athletic ability had earned him a scholarship to a prestigious university, where he'd continue his charmed existence. The gap between Maya's world and Blake's seemed unbridgeable. Two separate universes that existed within the same building, but operated according to completely different rules. Maya understood this dynamic and had structured her entire high school experience around avoiding any intersection with the social hierarchy that Blake dominated. She'd made herself invisible, unremarkable, beneath notice. But invisibility, Maya was about to learn, could be both a shield and a trap. Her careful cultivation of anonymity had protected her for 4 years, but it had also made her an unknown quantity in a system that feared the unfamiliar. Blake and his followers had ignored her because she seemed harmless, but that same invisibility would soon make her the perfect target when they needed someone to hurt and humiliate for their entertainment. Maya's fingers danced across the keyboard in the quiet sanctuary of her bedroom, the glow from multiple monitors casting ethereal shadows across her concentrated face. While most teenagers her age were scrolling through social media or binge-watching streaming shows, Maya inhabited a different digital realm entirely. Her setup resembled something from a tech thriller movie. 3 curved monitors arranged in perfect alignment, a custom-built computer humming quietly beneath her desk, and cables snaking between devices with the precision of a professional operation. Uncle David had started her journey into this hidden world 3 years ago during one of his visits to Millbrook. David Chun had been a legend in cybersecurity circles before a motorcycle accident left him with chronic pain and forced him into early retirement. His government clearance was gone, his career over, but his knowledge remained intact. When he'd discovered Maya's natural aptitude for logical thinking and pattern recognition, he'd seen an opportunity to pass on skills that few people her age possessed. Their lessons had begun innocently enough. David taught her basic programming concepts, showed her how networks functioned, explained the fundamental principles of digital security. But Maya's hunger for knowledge was insatiable, and David found himself sharing increasingly advanced techniques. She learned to trace IP addresses through proxy servers, to identify vulnerabilities in seemingly secure systems, to gather information from sources that most people didn't even know existed. Maya's education accelerated when David introduced her to his former colleague, a woman known only as Phoenix, who operated in the gray areas between legal and illegal hacking. Phoenix had agreed to mentor Maya remotely, impressed by the teenager's natural talent and ethical approach to using powerful tools. Under Phoenix's guidance, Maya learned social engineering, digital forensics, and the art of moving through networks without leaving traces. More importantly, she learned the responsibility that came with such capabilities. The basement workshop where Maya conducted her most sensitive projects was hidden behind a false wall that Uncle David had helped her construct during his last visit. Carmen knew about Maya's interest in computers, but had no idea about the sophisticated equipment hidden below their modest home. Maya had funded her setup through freelance graphic design work, using skills learned from watching her aunt to earn money that she carefully converted into untraceable cryptocurrency before purchasing her equipment. Maya's digital prowess extended far beyond simple hacking. She developed custom software applications that could interface with various devices, analyze social media patterns to predict behavior, and even create sophisticated deepfake videos that were virtually indistinguishable from authentic footage. Her artistic training gave her an eye for detail that most technical experts lacked, allowing her to craft digital illusions that could fool even experienced observers. The intersection of her artistic and technical abilities had produced something unprecedented in her Metamorphosis project. While the visible components showcased her traditional art skills, the hidden digital infrastructure represented years of coding and engineering work. Maya had embedded sensors throughout the installation that could detect movement, facial expressions, even heart rates of viewers standing nearby. The projection system could respond to these inputs in real time, creating an experience that adapted to each individual observer. But the project's most sophisticated feature remained completely hidden from view. Maya had programmed the system to automatically scan for nearby wireless devices, creating detailed profiles of anyone who entered the exhibition space. It could capture device identifiers, analyze browsing histories from unsecured connections, and even access cloud storage accounts through exploited vulnerabilities. To any observer, it appeared to be simply an innovative art installation, but underneath it functioned as one of the most advanced surveillance systems ever created by a high school student. Maya's motivation for developing these capabilities went beyond simple intellectual curiosity. Growing up as an outsider in a small town had taught her the value of information, the power that came from understanding hidden connections and secret vulnerabilities. She'd watched classmates destroy each other with cruel rumors and social manipulation, and she'd realized that knowledge was the ultimate equalizer. While Blake Morrison relied on inherited privilege and Derek Walsh depended on physical intimidation, Maya had built her own form of power from pure intelligence and determination. Her training with Uncle David had included extensive lessons about ethics and responsibility. David had seen too many talented individuals destroy their lives by using their skills carelessly, and he'd been determined to ensure that Maya understood the consequences of her actions. Every technique he taught her came with warnings about legal boundaries and moral considerations. Maya had internalized these lessons deeply, viewing her abilities as tools that should only be used when absolutely necessary. The digital landscape of Riverside High School was an open book to Maya's trained eyes. She'd mapped the entire network, infrastructure, identified security vulnerabilities in the administration systems, and created detailed profiles of students and faculty based on their online activities. She knew about teachers' personal problems, students' secret relationships, and administrators' questionable decisions. But she'd never acted on this information, content to observe and catalog without interfering. Maya's restraint came partly from Uncle David's ethical training, but also from her understanding of how quickly powerful tools could spiral out of control. She'd studied enough case histories to know that revenge, once started, often consumed both the victim and the perpetrator. Her art provided a healthier outlet for her emotions, allowing her to channel frustration and anger into creative expression, rather than destructive action. Phoenix had taught Maya that the most dangerous hackers weren't those with the best technical skills, but those who understood human psychology well enough to manipulate people into providing access to supposedly secure systems. Maya's artistic training had given her exceptional observational skills, allowing her to read micro-expressions, body language, and vocal patterns with uncanny accuracy. She could predict how people would react to various stimuli, identify their deepest insecurities, and craft approaches that would bypass their psychological defenses. The combination of technical expertise and psychological insight made Maya uniquely dangerous, though she preferred to think of herself as uniquely capable of protecting herself if the need ever arose. She'd created multiple contingency plans for various scenarios, always hoping she'd never need to implement them. Her digital arsenal remained carefully maintained but unused, like insurance policies against disasters she hoped would never occur. Maya's secret extended beyond her technical abilities to include her financial resources. Her freelance work had generated more income than anyone suspected, and her cryptocurrency investments had performed exceptionally well. She possessed enough liquid assets to disappear entirely if necessary, to start over somewhere else with a completely new identity. This knowledge provided psychological comfort, a sense that she wasn't trapped by circumstances beyond her control. The irony wasn't lost on Maya that while Blake Morrison flaunted his family's wealth and social connections, she'd quietly accumulated resources and capabilities that dwarfed anything he possessed. His power was visible, dependent on external validation and social structures that could be disrupted. Her power was invisible, self-contained, and virtually impossible to take away. She was the quiet storm that no one saw coming, the hidden force that could reshape everything without warning. The crisp October morning carried the scent of fallen leaves and distant wood smoke as Maya made her way to school, her mind focused on the final preparations for her metamorphosis project. The district art competition was only 2 weeks away, and she'd planned to spend the entire day fine-tuning the digital projection system that would bring her vision to life. Her messenger bag contained the latest components she'd ordered online, specialized sensors that would make the interactive elements even more responsive to viewer presence. Maya had arrived at school early, hoping to complete her calibration work before other students filled the hallways with their chaotic energy. The art studio felt different in the pre-dawn quiet, almost sacred in its stillness. Her project dominated the corner space where Ms. Rodriguez had allowed her to set up the installation, the canvas panels arranged in perfect sequence to tell their story of transformation. Each brushstroke represented months of careful planning, every color choice deliberate and meaningful. The digital components remained her secret pride, hidden beneath protective covers that made them appear to be simple display equipment. Maya had spent countless nights programming the interactive software, creating algorithms that could interpret human movement and translate it into visual poetry. The system could detect when someone approached, track their emotional responses through micro-movements, and adjust the projected imagery to create a personalized experience for each viewer. Blake Morrison had been in an unusually foul mood that morning, the result of a confrontation with his father over his latest academic performance. Despite his charmed existence, Blake's grades had been slipping as his attention focused more on maintaining his social status than on actual learning. His father had threatened to pull funding for his spring break trip to Ciabio, a humiliation that Blake couldn't afford to suffer in front of his followers. He needed an outlet for his frustration, someone weaker to absorb the anger he couldn't direct at his father. Derek Walsh had noticed Blake's dark mood immediately and positioned himself nearby, ready to provide whatever support his leader required. Derek understood the unspoken dynamics of their relationship perfectly. When Blake was angry, Derek became the instrument through which that anger found expression. It was a role Derek embraced because it gave him purpose and kept him firmly within Blake's protective circle. His own family life provided little stability, making his connection to Blake's group essential for his sense of belonging. Sofia Martinez had been monitoring the school's social media ecosystem since dawn, tracking overnight developments and planning her content strategy for the day. Her followers expected constant entertainment, a steady stream of drama and insider information that required careful cultivation. She'd noticed some tension between Blake and his father based on overheard phone conversations, and she was prepared to document whatever explosive result might emerge from that conflict. Ryan Cooper had been working on his latest prank video, an elaborate scheme designed to humiliate some unsuspecting victim in a way that would generate maximum views. His subscriber count had plateaued recently, and he needed something spectacular to recapture his audience's attention. He'd been scouting potential targets, looking for someone whose reaction would be particularly entertaining, or whose downfall would satisfy his viewers' appetite for schadenfreude. Lily Thompson arrived at school already anxious about maintaining her position within the group. She'd overheard Blake's phone conversation with his father and recognized the signs of impending trouble. Her survival instincts had been honed by years of navigating unstable social situations, and she could sense when the group's dynamics were about to shift in dangerous directions. Her strategy was always to identify the likely victim early and distance herself from any potential fallout. The collision between Maya's world and Blake's occurred by pure chance, a convergence of timing and circumstance that would reshape both their lives. Maya had been carrying a large canvas panel down the main hallway, moving carefully to avoid damaging the delicate surface she'd spent weeks perfecting. The panel was part of her installation centerpiece, a detailed study of a chrysalis at the moment of opening that had required extraordinary precision to achieve the photorealistic effect she'd envisioned. Blake had been walking with his usual entourage, their conversation loud and boisterous as they discussed weekend plans that none of them could actually afford but all pretended were within reach. His attention was focused on maintaining the performance of confident leadership that his position required, gesturing expansively as he told some elaborate story designed to reinforce his status as the group's undisputed center. The actual collision was minor, barely more than a brush of shoulders as their paths intersected near the main staircase. Under normal circumstances, it would have resulted in nothing more than mumbled apologies and continued movement in opposite directions. But Blake's foul mood transformed the insignificant contact into an opportunity for the kind of dramatic confrontation that his followers expected from him. Maya stumbled slightly when Blake's shoulder caught hers, her grip on the canvas panel loosening for just a moment. She managed to maintain her balance and keep hold of her artwork, but the near miss sent adrenaline coursing through her system. Her careful training with Uncle David had taught her to remain calm under pressure, to assess situations quickly and respond appropriately. She recognized the potential danger immediately, but hoped to diffuse it through careful de-escalation. Blake turned on her with theatrical fury, his voice carrying across the crowded hallway as he demanded to know why she wasn't watching where she was going. His performance was calculated to draw attention, to create the kind of public spectacle that would reinforce his dominance while providing entertainment for his followers. He stepped closer to Maya, using his height advantage to loom over her. In an intimidating display that had proven effective countless times before, Maya kept her eyes downcast, clutching her canvas panel protectively as she tried to navigate around Blake's imposing presence. Her training had taught her to avoid confrontation whenever possible, to recognize when discretion was the better part of valor. She could feel the weight of dozens of stares as other students stopped to watch the drama unfold, their phones emerging automatically to capture whatever entertainment might develop. Derek moved to flank Maya's other side, his bulk creating an effective barrier that prevented her from escaping the confrontation. His role was to provide silent intimidation, to make the target feel trapped and helpless while Blake delivered whatever punishment seemed appropriate. Derek had performed this function so many times that it had become automatic, his positioning calculated to maximize psychological pressure. Sophia's phone was already recording, her experienced eye framing the shot to capture both Blake's dominant position and Maya's obvious distress. She recognized the potential for viral content in the developing situation, particularly if the quiet art girl could be provoked into some kind of dramatic reaction. Her followers loved watching confident bullies dominate weaker targets, and this scenario had all the elements needed for engagement. Ryan sensed opportunity in the gathering crowd and moved closer with his own recording equipment ready. His content strategy focused on capturing authentic reactions from unexpected victims, and Maya's artistic reputation made her an intriguing target. He began positioning himself for multiple camera angles, already mentally editing the footage for maximum comedic effect. The moment that would change everything came when Blake noticed the canvas panel Maya was protecting so carefully. His eyes focused on the detailed artwork with the predatory instinct of someone who'd learned to identify what others valued most. The painting represented months of Maya's life, countless hours of painstaking work that couldn't be easily replaced. Blake recognized its importance to her immediately, and that recognition transformed it into a weapon he could use against her. Maya saw the shift in Blake's expression and understood instantly what he was contemplating. Her grip tightened on the canvas as protective instincts warred with the knowledge that any resistance would only escalate the situation. She'd spent 4 years successfully avoiding this exact scenario, maintaining her invisibility through careful observation and strategic withdrawal. But now she found herself trapped in the spotlight with nowhere to retreat, holding something precious that had suddenly become a target. Blake's eyes gleamed with malicious intent as he reached for Maya's canvas panel, his fingers brushing against the edge of the artwork she'd spent months perfecting. The touch was deliberate, calculated to provoke a reaction that would justify whatever cruelty he had planned. Maya jerked the canvas away from his grasp, her protective instincts overriding her usual strategy of passive avoidance. The movement was small but defiant, and Blake's expression shifted into something darker as he realized this particular victim might not surrender as easily as he'd expected. "What's this supposed to be?" Blake asked with exaggerated curiosity, his voice loud enough to ensure their growing audience could hear every word. He gestured dismissively at Maya's artwork, though his eyes showed genuine appreciation for the technical skill involved. The painting was extraordinary, a photorealistic study of transformation that demonstrated artistic ability far beyond anything Blake could comprehend or achieve. That excellence made it an even more satisfying target for destruction. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs as she struggled to maintain her composure. Every instinct Uncle David had drilled into her screamed warnings about the dangerous situation developing around her. She could see the calculation in Blake's eyes, feel the predatory attention of his followers as they sensed impending entertainment. Her training had prepared her for many scenarios, but standing in a crowded hallway while trying to protect months of irreplaceable work presented challenges she'd never anticipated. Derek stepped closer, his massive frame blocking any potential escape route while providing Blake with the physical backup that made his aggression possible. Derek's role in these confrontations was well established, though he took no particular pleasure in the cruelty. For him, intimidation was simply a tool that maintained the social order he understood and benefited from. His presence alone was usually enough to convince targets that resistance was futile. Sophia circled the confrontation. Like a digital vulture, her phone capturing every angle of Maya's distress for later distribution to her eager followers. She'd already crafted the caption in her mind, something about karma catching up with weird art freaks who thought they were better than everyone else. Her audience craved this kind of content, the systematic humiliation of social outcasts that made them feel superior by comparison. Ryan had positioned himself strategically to record the climactic moment, whatever form it might take. His experience creating viral content had taught him to recognize the build-up to something spectacular, and he could sense that Blake was preparing for a performance that would generate significant engagement. The quiet art girl's obvious attachment to her painting made this scenario particularly promising for comedic potential. Lily hung back at the edge of the crowd, torn between her desperate need to maintain her position within Blake's group and her growing discomfort with the situation's direction. She could see genuine fear in Maya's eyes, the kind of terror that came from watching something precious being threatened with destruction. Part of Lily remembered what it felt like to be vulnerable and alone, but that empathy warred with her overwhelming need to belong somewhere. Maya's grip on the canvas tightened as Blake reached for it again, this time with clear intent to take possession of her work. She'd spent countless nights perfecting every detail of the painting, layering colors with surgical precision to achieve effects that seemed almost supernatural in their realism. The piece wasn't just art to her. It represented her ticket to a better future, her proof that she possessed talents worth nurturing and developing. "I asked you a question," Blake said, his voice carrying the entitled expectation of immediate compliance that came from years of unquestioned authority. His hand closed around the edge of Maya's canvas, applying gentle pressure that served as both threat and promise. The message was clear. She could surrender the painting voluntarily, or he would take it by force while ensuring maximum humiliation in the process. Maya's training kicked in as she assessed her options with clinical detachment. Uncle David had taught her to think strategically, even under extreme pressure, to consider not just immediate threats, but long-term consequences of any action she might take. Fighting back physically would be futile against Derek's size advantage, and would likely result in even worse retaliation. Appealing to authority figures would be pointless, given Blake's family connections and the school's history of protecting popular students. The crowd pressed closer, sensing that something significant was about to happen. Students who'd been hurrying to class had stopped to watch the drama unfold, their phones emerging automatically to document whatever entertainment Blake might provide. Maya could feel the weight of their attention, the eager anticipation of witnessing someone else's downfall that made high school such a brutal environment for anyone who dared to be different. Blake's smile widened as he felt Maya's resistance weaken, her grip on the canvas loosening slightly under the psychological pressure he'd applied. This was the moment he enjoyed most in these confrontations, when his victims realized the futility of their situation and began to crumble. The art piece would make an excellent prop for the kind of dramatic destruction that his followers expected from him. Maya's mind raced through possibilities as she felt her carefully constructed defenses beginning to fail. Her digital capabilities offered potential solutions, but implementing them would require time and privacy she didn't currently possess. The surveillance system she'd installed throughout the school could provide evidence of what was happening, but that evidence would be meaningless if Blake's family influence protected him from consequences. "Please don't," Maya whispered, her voice barely audible above the murmur of the gathering crowd. The words slipped out before she could stop them, a moment of vulnerability that she immediately regretted. Showing weakness to someone like Blake was like bleeding in shark-infested waters. It only encouraged more aggressive attacks. Blake's expression shifted into theatrical sympathy, though his eyes remained cold and calculating. "Oh, this is important to you, isn't it?" he said with mock concern, his grip on the canvas tightening as he spoke. "All those hours in the art room, staying late like some kind of obsessed weirdo. I bet this little picture means everything to you." The psychological torture was as deliberate as it was cruel. Blake understood that simply destroying the painting wouldn't be enough. He needed to extract maximum emotional damage by forcing Maya to beg for its preservation. His followers expected a complete performance, not just casual vandalism. The art piece's obvious quality made its destruction even more satisfying, like toppling a monument to prove that excellence meant nothing without power to protect it. Derek shifted his weight slightly, a subtle signal that he was prepared to intervene if Maya attempted any desperate resistance. His loyalty to Blake was absolute, though he sometimes wondered if their targets deserved the treatment they received. Maya seemed harmless enough, just another weird kid who'd made the mistake of attracting Blake's attention at the wrong moment. Maya's composure finally cracked as Blake began to bend the canvas, applying just enough pressure to threaten the delicate surface without actually damaging it yet. Months of work hung in the balance, her entire future potentially destroyed by someone who couldn't even comprehend the skill required to create what he was threatening to demolish. Tears of frustration and rage blurred her vision as she realized how completely helpless she was in this moment. The breaking point came when Blake's fingers pressed harder against the canvas, creating the first small tear in the surface Maya had spent weeks perfecting. The sound was barely audible, but to Maya it felt like the crack of breaking bones. Her artwork, her dreams, her carefully planned future were all being reduced to rubble by someone who would never face any meaningful consequences for his actions. Something fundamental shifted inside Maya as she watched her creation being destroyed. The quiet, invisible girl who'd spent 4 years avoiding confrontation suddenly ceased to exist, replaced by someone whose eyes blazed with cold fury that made several observers step back involuntarily. Blake noticed the change but misinterpreted it as the final collapse of resistance rather than the emergence of something far more dangerous than he could imagine. Maya's voice was steady when she finally spoke, though everyone present could hear the steel beneath her words. "You're going to regret this," she said simply, her tone carrying absolute conviction that sent unexpected chills through the crowd. It wasn't a threat delivered in anger, but a statement of fact spoken with the certainty of someone who possessed knowledge and capabilities that others couldn't fathom. Blake laughed dismissively, though something in Maya's expression made him uncomfortable in ways he couldn't quite define. He'd broken dozens of students over the years, watched them cry and beg and accept their powerlessness. But Maya's reaction was different, controlled in a way that suggested strength rather than defeat. For just a moment, Blake wondered if he'd made a mistake targeting someone whose quiet exterior might hide depths he hadn't anticipated. But the moment passed as his followers' expectations pulled him back into his familiar role. The show must go on, the hierarchy must be maintained, and Maya's defiant words only made her destruction more necessary. Blake's fingers pressed deeper into the canvas, tearing through layers of paint and months of dreams with casual indifference to the devastation he was creating. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.